Raise your hand if you've ever gotten to the end of the year and told yourself, now what I need to do next year is just try harder. Anybody ever said that, right? And the next year rolls around and you say, no, this doesn't count. Do over. I'm really going to apply myself this time. Has anybody ever had things going so well, you had raised so much money, you had reached so many people that year that you decided next year you're going to tone it down? Anybody? No? Today we're going to look at something where trying harder won't get you there. And I'm going to show you what will. But I want to acknowledge you before we get started, because I understand that on your computer right now there are 1,000 emails burning a hole in it right now. And when you get back to the office and open up your computer, it's going to devour you. As a matter of fact, I have gone into the future and taken a picture of you when you get back to work tomorrow. In a little bit, I want to show you how checking things off your to-do list is dangerously distracting. I'm going to show you what highly effective people are doing instead and how you can leverage that in your own life. Now, if you're taking notes, this entire talk comes down to two things. Your success will be found in planning and in people. Really? I know, right? You've tried motivation, get all fired up, pumped up. Next year, still about the same. You've tried casting a bigger vision. No, the vision was too big. We actually need to specialize. Still the same. Maybe some new software. Maybe you hired a fancy consultant. Still the same. I know the message sounds incredibly mundane. Planning and people. It's not sexy. It's not romantic. But here's why it matters. You know what your mission is. And if you've been in it for a while, you know how many people in your state you are not able to reach because you can't afford to. Remember the first rule of hole digging. Put the shovel down. Trying harder won't get you there. I want to show you what will. Now, to be fair, casting a bigger vision does matter. Software and consultants do matter. But without planning and people, the harder you work, the behinder your business will get. With planning and people, the less you work, the more money you'll raise. Turn to your neighbor and say, I like that idea. Has anybody ever looked at their to-do list and found more things on there than you had time to do? Right? Yep. And I'm guessing it was in your own handwriting? Yeah, it's kind of like a paper cut. It's an injury you give to yourself. It feels about like that. Since we'll be talking about this for the next few minutes, would it be okay if I shared a little bit about myself? My name is Jarrod Hanning. I'm the principal violist with the South Carolina Philharmonic. That's me sitting right there in the fuzzy picture. And that prepares me very well for my work as a performance coach, where I train leaders in the thinking patterns of success. Some people don't know this, but when you are engaged in making music, whether you are clapping your hands along to the beat, singing along as you're driving in your car, however you are creating the music, in that moment you are using more of your brain than any other time. And this is well documented with MRI studies. This matters because in your situation right now, that to-do list with more on it than you have time to do, you are already doing all you know to do. If there was something else, you'd be doing it, right? So accessing a different part of your thinking is your key to a breakthrough there. Let me show you how this works. All right, turn to your neighbor and say, get ready. I'm going to have some words up on the screen. That's where the message is going to be. You can follow along up there. And this will show you what's going on in your brain when you're listening to music. And in a little bit, we're going to see the difference that makes in the results you're producing in your life right now. Here we go. Thank you, thank you. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. All right. So with this concept called ideation, as we saw in the vacation example, your most productive day all year comes because something in your mind was placed in the future. What that means is whatever you're experiencing right now, your level of productivity or energy or excitement or engagement, if you're talking with a friend and you're having a great time, it's not because you're enjoying talking with your friend. It's because you have predicted that you will continue to enjoy talking with them. How do we know this? Because when your boss calls you into the office, right? Nothing's happened. We've just predicted what's going to happen. And that prediction completely controls our present state. And by shifting our present state with a change in the future, you are able to shift the number of people that you're reaching and the money you have raised to make that happen. Let me show you how that works. Okay, if you could stand up, please. Pretty please, stand up. And we're going to do a little exercise. I have people tell me the most amazing tales of why they were not able to go farther. A surgery, an illness, their age, somebody was in their way. They have an allergic reaction to stupid exercises at seminars. Okay, fine, got it. That's what was stopping you. Fine. Why did that not stop you the second time? I mean, if that was the truth, what changed? Whatever you put in your mind, your body will find a way to get there. Stated differently, what you're currently experiencing, stopping your growth, isn't in reality. It's because it's what your mind is focused on at the moment. And we're going to look at how to change that. Because a breakthrough in your situation will first come as a breakthrough in your thinking. Now, I want you to think about your to-do list that has more things written on there than you have possibly time to get done. And there's 3 truths I want you to notice about that to-do list. Number 1, you are currently doing all you know to do. Really. Like, pat yourself on the back. You're not a slacker. If there was something else you could be doing, you'd be doing it, right? Number 2, everything you're doing currently makes sense to do. Well, duh, of course it makes sense. Didn't make sense, you wouldn't be doing it, right? What that means is that a breakthrough in your situation will first not make sense. If it made sense, you'd already be doing it. And that's a challenge. It's like learning how to ride a bicycle. If you remember, I don't know how old you were, 5 or 6 years old, and they had just taken the training wheels off, and you were a little wobbly, you didn't have it yet. Maybe at this point you had crashed, or maybe you had set a foot down, and your crazy Aunt Jenny comes to give you some advice. And she says, what you need to do is go faster. And in that moment, you realize why they called her Crazy Aunt Jenny. Because to your 5-year-old brain, that was the dumbest idea you had ever heard. I mean, geez, if you can't balance going slow, how is going fast going to help? That's just going to make it worse. And then one day, you found yourself going faster. And in that moment, oh my gosh, now I get it. Now it makes sense. It didn't make sense because you understood it. It made sense because you did something that at first sounded crazy. Earlier, when I asked you to twist all the way to the new spot on the wall, some of you guffawed. You chuckled out loud as you said to yourself, I am the expert on my body. I know what I'm capable of. He does not. I'm just going, oh, well, would you looky there. Now, we talked about thinking patterns, things you put in your mind, and the difference that it makes. Those obstacles that you hit, not having enough time, not having enough money, the way the relationship conversation goes, you say this, they say that, you say this, it always ends this way. Those obstacles that you keep running up against, it's not for lack of trying. And for that matter, trying harder isn't going to fix it. The only reason you ever hit an obstacle like that in a relationship or with time or money is the same reason you would hit something while you're driving your car. It was in your blind spot. And from that perspective, you couldn't see something about it. You're not a bad person. All it means is there's something about that situation your brain hasn't noticed yet. So, let me show you how to fix that. Turn to your neighbor and say, "It's about time." This man here, Robert Hartman, has some Nobel-nominated work, and I'm going to show you some visual graphs of the work he did. And these graphs are like fingerprints of your thinking patterns. Remember, a breakthrough in your situation will first happen as a breakthrough in your thinking. So being able to access that different way of thinking, even though it feels uncomfortable at first, is your ticket to reaching those current people in the state that you can't afford to reach right now. In the graph, we're looking at different sized circles. Those sized circles represent levels of clarity. Where there's a big circle, that person sees life that way very easily. Where there's a small circle, it's hard for them to understand. That blue circle there is like eagle-eye vision. It's all the way in that left column. That left column has to do with emotions, how you relate to people. Notice they have eagle-eye vision. This is a strength of theirs. They're very, very good at people. But having a strength and using it are different things. Many of us took 10 years of piano lessons or 10 years of dance or karate as a kid, but now that we're grown up, we no longer play or sing or dance. We have a skill that we don't use. And that's where the vertical axis comes in. You see this green dot is down low. While they have excellent clarity in that area, it's down low, indicating that they're not valuing it. It's not important to them. By printing up how you think, it shows where the blind spot is that's been tripping you up all this time. But there's some common patterns that you can take advantage of right away. Now these three areas, how you think about emotion, how you think about taking action, and how you think about systems, planning, organization, that kind of thing. Let's say these three people were lost in the woods. The relator would say, "Well, how do you guys feel about this?" The go-getter would say, "All right, we're burning daylight, let's go this way." And the planner would say, "Hold on, let's think about this. We want to go the right way, or we could make it worse." Which just annoys the go-getter to no end. We ain't got time to think, we're burning daylight. Come on, hustle up. In a meeting, the doer might say, "Last month was great. We raised an extra $10,000. We got something done, right?" And the relator would say, "Well, how do you feel about that?" And the planner might say, "Well, that doesn't really matter because nobody filed their expense reports in the blue folders like we agreed on." I'm going to flip through a couple of these charts, and these are individuals. And notice how different an individual's thinking patterns are. Areas where they're very clear, but they don't use it. Areas where they're fuzzy, but they keep trying to use it. Just how differently they think about the world. And we're going to kind of zero in on the top part of this chart, this kind of individual. When we talk to somebody and we say, "Do you ever have more things on your to-do list than you have time to get done?" "Oh my gosh, all the time. Jeez Louise." Okay. "Have you tried working harder and faster?" Yep, try that every day. Okay. At the end of the day, what did you get done? "Well, I returned 100 emails and I went to 3 meetings and had 27 phone calls and I skipped lunch and I stayed late." "Okay, great. What did you get done?" "Well, see, I had 100 emails and 27... "Okay, great. What did you get done? Like, what did you move the ball forward?" And this person has a hard time putting their finger on what actually made a difference. It felt like they were busy and stressed out. They're going to have to do it again tomorrow. It's a very, very stressful way of going through the day. Notice a couple things about how they think. In the action column, they have a high priority on getting things done. Now, this is counterintuitive. You would think that somebody that values getting things done would actually get things done, but they don't. And the reason is they are so focused on checking things off their to-do list that they spend their day, okay, this is going to take 3 minutes, I'll get that done. Okay, then this will take 10 minutes, I'll do that next. They're going for the check off, not to move the ball down the field. As you can see, you cannot solve a bad strategy with stubbornness. It's like driving to a new house that you haven't been to. After a while, you realize you're lost, and so you start driving faster. That can't fix being on the wrong road. You have to stop and look at the map. And for this person, that's how they respond. Consequently, when this thinking pattern shows up, we call it the chevron of stress. Notice on the left side, the emotion side is kind of low. While they have good clarity on how the people around them are feeling and what's important to them, they have a tendency to devalue it. Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where you have something that you're passionate about, you see what's going to make a difference, you're moving in that direction, you're talking to somebody, listening to their story, and there's this voice in the back of your head that goes, look, I know how you feel, I just don't care. Notice on the right column, they have a tendency to devalue the importance of planning, of structure, of organization. For this person, they say, look, I've got it in my head. By the time I write it down, I could have just got it done. It's a total waste of time. If I didn't have to fill out this paperwork, I could really do something in the world. It's very frustrating to think about those things. And this is a thinking pattern. It's what it looks like on the chart. Let me show you a different way of thinking. Now, before I talk about this, I want you to think of somebody in your life that is very successful. Somebody that you look up to, they're successful at home, they're successful at work, they're successful in the community. Somebody that's maybe been a mentor to you in the past. The kind of person that when they wake up, their hair is not messed up, right? Notice that this person that you're thinking of, you could interrupt them in the middle of the day. It doesn't matter how much money they make or how many projects they're involved in, they still have time for you. It's almost like the more they work, the more free time they create. What? As a matter of fact, the less they work, the more money their company makes. How does that work? I thought hard work was the secret. When we talk to that person, this is the kind of thinking pattern that shows up in their life. And let me show you why. Notice they have a tendency to prioritize two things. People, on the left, emotions, relating, building emotional bank deposits with people, building high-value relationships. And they have a tendency to prioritize planning, looking ahead, structure, systems, automation. As a general rule, if you ever do the same task twice, you need to think hard about it. This kind of person, when they have a to-do list with more things on it than they have time to do, the first thing they do is go to work planning. They don't look at their list for what they can check off or what they can clear off their plate. They look at their list for what's the most important thing to be done, not the thing that's currently on fire. They look at their list for what can somebody else do better than me, and how can I build a relationship with them so they're internally motivated to do it. It's not about delegating, because if you delegate something to somebody who doesn't want to do it, you just created another problem. It's about thinking, how can you speak to people in a way where you bring their dream and vision out and you see how that aligns with what you're doing so you work together. They're internally motivated. How do you speak in a way that causes them to want to say yes? If you need to say no, how do you do that in a way that causes them to say thank you? If you need to deliver some information that might change their mind, how do you do that in a way that they feel safe instead of defensive? By the way, those conversations and strategies I just mentioned, we're going to be covering in the workshop after that. I hope you can come see me. One of them is extremely important. I see nonprofits all the time spend a lot of money on a big banquet for a big fundraiser, but they present the information backwards, which causes the brain to say no. Simply knowing what causes the brain to say yes changes that. They leave hundreds of thousands of dollars on the plate. It's so frustrating. We call this shape the leadership V. Notice that all three are not high. Action is low. Here's why. If you are doing something, your business is falling behind. As long as you're doing the task, that means that people aren't being invested in to support you, and systems aren't being built so that you can delegate it. The more you're doing the work, the more your business is falling behind. So here's your ticket out of it. Every day, PR. Letter P, letter R is your formula for having a personal record. The first one is, did I plan today? Is there something that I can write an outline summary that I can give to a brain-dead individual that can do this for me? Is there a way that if I did one of these things, it would make a bigger difference instead of trying to do all of them? Did I plan today? And the second one, did I build relationships today? Who is it that I can have lunch with and just ask them about their dog? Who can I talk to about something that they care about? These are the tickets, PR. Now understand there are some days that you wake up late and you've got to rush the kids off to school and the house catches on fire and you've got 3 meetings at 8 o'clock. I understand, right? Those days happen, and it might be 2 o'clock in the afternoon before you realize you've been checking things off the list. Fine, stop at 2 o'clock. Did I plan today? Did I build relationships today? If you'll do those two things, I guarantee you a PR. If you keep checking things off the list, you're gonna be stressed. A couple things for you. In review, my friends, if you find yourself stressed out, working harder and faster, I ask you to remember the first rule of holding. Put the shovel down. Your power is found in planning and in people. And I understand by telling you that, I'm asking you to give up an addiction stronger than coffee. It feels great checking those little wins off your to-do list. But the more you're checking them off, the farther behind your business is going. Because while you're checking them off, systems aren't being built to support you, or automate those tasks, and people aren't being invested in to come on your team. Planning and people is your power. If you'll do that, I guarantee you a new PR. Thank you for your time.